This short video accompanies the Graphite module part 1, exercise 3, and it's looking at shading techniques. There are basically 4 shading techniques that you can use with a pencil mark making, and it's hatching, cross hatching, stippling and continuous tone, which we'll look at later. So hatching is basically just using lines which are parallel to each other, and you can make them as close or far away as necessary, and usually you follow the contour of whatever the shape is you're drawing. So for instance, in this sort of imaginary stem where the light is coming from the right hand side here, we've got a light side on this side and a shade side on this side, and you can see that I've started to use hatching lines to follow the contour of the curve around this sort of imaginary stem, and you work from the outside in so that you don't go over the edge. Like so. Same with cross hatching. You start in the same way that you put in lines in hatching lines in one direction, again following the curve of the stem. I'll probably do them a bit closer together than this in reality, but this is again just to demonstrate. And then cross hatch across. And the next method is the stipple, which is basically just using the point of your pencil to make dots. So again, using the stem where the dots are most dense, that's your darkest area, and you can fade them out into the lighter area. So you can work all over like so, where the shade is. And gradually build up tone using these dots. So start with a light layer and then I won't do the whole thing because it'll take too long. It's quite a slow process. It's quite often used with ink as well. All of these methods are used with ink as well as with pencil. So where I want it to be darker on this shade side, I build up a thicker density of dots. I'll just go over it until I get it looking smooth. It is a very slow process. So I'll leave it at that. Now the fourth method is a method called continuous tone. So I shall do another stem here for you, imaginary stem. And that's basically a continuous tone, means that you don't lift the pencil and you use a small ellipse type movement. You can use it in a line as well. So I'll do an example of it at the side here. You can use a kind of elliptical movement like that to create a dense area of graphite, which is completely smooth. But you can also work in the direction of that's still a version of continuous tone, where you might have a I'll just work with the elliptical sort of method here. So I work from the lightest edge to the darker outer edge, which is in shade. And the idea with continuous tone is actually you don't end up with any outline at all. You end up with just a smooth, three-dimensional looking surface. So the outer lines basically disappear. Now, if this was a stem, it wouldn't actually be just a line at this edge. It would actually have some tone in it as well. So I'd put a lighter edge down this side. And this is the method most commonly used in botanical illustration, tonal illustration, using graphite. So you can see that that's giving the effect of a highlight on a stem and giving a three-dimensional form. I'm using it more lightly, nearer to the highlight, and a little bit more pressure towards this darker edge. Now, what would actually happen with a full tonal drawing is I would probably swap to a softer grade of pencil. I'm using a B for this. You know, I could swap to a 2B if I wanted to make it darker. But I can still get that tonal effect just using one grade of pencil to a point. I'll just go back up over the very darkest edge. And we'll revisit this technique in the next part, the next exercise, exercise 4. We'll be creating a tonal strip using the continuous tone method. Obviously, the more you work it, the smoother you get it. But you don't want to press on too hard either. You don't want any real pressure. It's quite a light motion that flows on the paper. You don't want to ever press on so that you get a shiny look with your graphite. It should never be shiny. That means you're using too much pressure. That's it.